In the darkness of the night, fragrant blossoms bloom. As bandits prowl out of sight, a sudden resounding boom. This is not the mountain's roar. Do not be mistaken. What seemed like rocks are rocks no more. And as soon as they awaken, the monster shows its actual form. Both prey and earth are shaken.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Douglas and Dickheads, today we are looking at Basarios. Now, Basarios is a very cool monster. An original OG came in the very first monster game that came out like 1,000 years ago, back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, so it was actually fitting, if you will. But as you saw in the little intro thing there, he likes to describe himself as a rock, and that's very true. Back in the day, because graphics weren't up to snuff, a lot of rocks looked just like him, and his camouflage was very good. He would actually sit around other rocks, and as a young hunter, I myself found, well, I didn't find him, actually. I roamed around forever until he got away from being a rock, so I didn't know what he looked like when he wasn't a rock. Well, when he was a rock, because he just looked like rocks, and he sat down with other rocks, and graphics were different, so he didn't really stand out, and thank you, Capcom, for making him so distinguished this time. Nevertheless, here we go. So, to fight him, it's going to be a bit of a chore. He is a very armored monster, a lot less armored than what he used to be. I'm probably going to keep making parallels to how he used to be very difficult to fight, because hitting him was a very tough ordeal. There was very few spots where he can land many hits, if any at all. And honestly, that's still kind of the same in this regard, but they did lessen it quite a bit, so that way you can actually hit certain spots a lot more easier than you would from before. And they really knock back a lot of the bouncing and whatnot in this game, because it's just easier now. Nevertheless, hit him in the belly. He makes his belly exceptionally easier to hit when he is heated up. How does he get heated up? Whenever he gets pissed off, and whenever he's about to do the gas, he'll shoot like a fiery gas from underneath his belly. If you look at his stomach, his body itself gets all nice and heated up. That means he's squishy, and you can actually hit him a lot easier now. Back in the day, that was not a thing. You had to kind of hold that L. So, first and foremost, let's talk about his attacks. We talk about the heat explosion, if you will, the heat gas. So let's talk about a couple of gas that he actually has. So he has a couple. He has the heat gas. It comes out a lot, I mean a lot slower than what it used to, and that's for everything. Every gas comes out super slow. He has a heat gas, he has a sleeping gas, and he has a poison gas. I think he still has the sleep gas. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure if he says if he says the sleep gas. Let me know. If not, was that just a Gravios thing? My memory's a little fuzzy. Nevertheless, he has gases. Granted, back in the day, it was a lot harder to actually avoid these things, because it happened not necessarily instantly, but it came out a lot quicker than it does now. This time around, though, you have plenty of time to get away from the action. You can be mid-combo and actually get your stuff away from, because it takes so long for him to actually charge it up. Nevertheless, since that's actually the case, since it's so much easier, now I'm not going to harp on it for too long, but we are going to talk about his hardened spots, his back. Just try not to attack the back, okay? It's super hard to hit. His wings are very hard to hit as well. Just do your best to actually attack the stomach, but if you're going to attack the stomach, you might want to stay a lot close to his underbit, like right up underneath him, so that way you miss his fire attacks. Now he has 2 fire attacks. You can shoot lobs of fireballs at you. If anything, more like magma balls, because fireballs, you don't have the same exact trajectory. He'll shoot these lobs at you. That's if you're at a relative distance, and he'll try to actually catch you with those. Those lobs deal a considerable amount of damage, and that's usually where his fire comes from, outside of the gas. But if you're up close to his body, you don't have to really worry about that. His second means of fire is actually a huge a searing beam. There we go. That's the better thing. It's a huge perpetual beam of fire, or like a laser beam, if you will. He can do this. This is actually new to him. He never had this before. Gravios had the beam, but now Basarios has the beam. How do you block the beam? You don't block the beam. How do you dodge the beam? Stay beyond his neck and you're good. We'll stay closer into his body and you're good. You won't get hit by these attacks. because of the type of monster he is and how he actually moves and how he's so sluggish and slow and whatnot, you don't really need to worry about the beam so much. His main means of actually getting you off of him will be the gases and him doing his body rolls and everything like that. Outside of that, the fact that he's heavily armored, he has the gases, he has the beams, he has the beam, he has the lobbing of the fireballs. He will do what everyone in the community call farts, where he will puff his body up and drop multiple different puffs of fire gases. When he does this, again, we call it farts because, you know, when you're walking and you're farting, we were kids and we're adults now, and it's still farts. You should know right off the why we call it farts. Lastly, he has a new move that was given to him by his uncle Gunlances or Ignactor. No, it's Gunlances. Shout out to Gunlances, where he'll dig under the ground and come up and down, up and down, up and down, trying his best to actually hit you with his body as he does this. All these attacks that he does actually hit pretty hard. That's his thing. He hits very hard, but it moves very slow. Very varied monster though. And essentially that's all there is to it. This attack you should really know it out for. How do you combat all these things? Use your wits and your hunting merit. He's very slow. It's not the end of the world. I mean, you guys can figure out like how to dodge a lot of these things. So I think you're gonna be okay. But again, watch out for these attacks. They all hit very hard. You will probably only be able to take 2 at the most before you are for sure gonna have to heal. So be careful when you go to fight him and try not to be too greedy. Even if you think he's a big lumbering idiot and you can probably take him, don't get too greedy, don't get too overzealous, never overcommit, because you can find yourself like knee deep in a whole lot of trouble. So outside of that, let's look at some gear. Okay, so for Basarios gear, honestly, it's lancing / gun lancing gear. I say this because, well, let's talk about the skills first. So we get defensive boost 4. What it does is it gives us a whole gang of defense, a bonus of 20, and some elements of resistances because we have a bunch of it already, and I think an increase of 5% on top of the defense, so it gives us a flat 20 plus a 5% increase. Not bad. Guard 2. What it does, it actually gives us slightly decreases the impact of attacks and reduces damage depletion by 50%. Attacks that would usually knock us back a little bit more, it either will knock us back a little less or just not at all. Which is essential to any kind of true lancing set. Speed sharpening. What it does is it speeds up the time which sharpens, usually by like it says, removes 2 cycles from the sharpening process. I believe all day you have either 4 or 5 hits with the whetstone will sharpen your weapon. This knocks off by half. Now load shells. This is where I feel it to be a gun lance. Maybe not now in low rank, but in high rank, maybe look forward for gun lance. So at level 1, it improves reloading and increases the gun lance shell capacity and charge blade fog capacity. But at level 1 though, it only increases the ammo encoding reload speed. So if you're using a gun or bow, like, it works in that regard. However, you need to have load 2 to actually have it affect your gun lance, increasing your gun lance and your charge blade capacity by 1. So look into that. This could also very well work as the charge blade set. I totally forgot. Not now, but maybe later. But as it stands right now, this is a lancing set. Its weapons, however, give either poison or fire. It has a hunting horn, a longsword, a lance, and I think something else. But the hunting horn and the longsword are both fire. The charge has a charge blade. The charge blade is poison. The lance is poison. The charge blade is kind of good. It's actually pretty solid. It's not terrible. It's not amazing. It's pretty good. The hunting horn, which you guys should be very familiar with if you use the hunting horn in the base, it's okay. The longsword has no green sharpness. There's very, very, very little green sharpness. And then the lance you don't get until high rank. That much I remember. That's just how it's always actually been. So I can't recommend the weapons as they stand. I mean, if you don't have any poison, sure, but if you don't have any fire, you're gonna get a lot better fire pretty soon. We have Wrathlos coming actually, so I wouldn't really grab his weapons. They're not very good. His armor though, if you're about to be gun lancing or charge blading it up, or even gunning for the most part as it stands right now, it could very well be worth it to you in the short term. So to wrap it up, let's actually talk about what it really takes. You're going to want to bring water if you're going to really bring a Blade Master weapon. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I did say it was kind of hard to hit him, and it's usually because he's very, very hard. But if you bring a fire weapon or a weapon that generates heat, like a Gunlances shells, you can use that same heat to soften his body to actually make it to where you can do more consistent damage to him. So think about that in some regards. Let's say you're playing in a team setting. Maybe someone could actually have a fire weapon, so that way they could soften all the little hard bits and you can actually go in and smack them real good. But honestly, to be very realistic, due to the fact that he's so armored, gunning has always been the way to go when fighting this particular monster, because it just has better hit zones and it's a lot more constant damage than that of anything else the Blade Master can really attain to. However, in this game, things are different because they made it not as armored, and you can actually use heat weapons to actually soften it up, which is a thing they did a long time ago, but nevertheless, it's still an applicable thing to actually do today. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything you see him do, he will do very slowly, so you should be able to have a lot of time to actually figure out what you want to do when doing it. The weapons are something you might want to skip on, but the armor is something you should think about if you're lancing, gun lancing, or even gunning, charge blading as well. Remember, like I said, you can use fire to heat up them soft bits, and you should be able to actually, well, heat up the hard bits to make them soft bits to do the real damage. But nevertheless, it's on you if you really want to take that route. If it seems like it's too much hassle, you want to go for the damage, again, the water is what you're gonna really want to bring. But if you're gunning, you probably won that. But with that said, everyone, that's Basarios. I love this monster. Actually, I'm gonna be using this armor like forever. Like, I know this is gonna be my gun lancing set, so for sure you're gonna see me rocking this when it comes to making videos later on down the line once I get done with the decks. But nevertheless, of course, as always, the Discord server, if you want to join the Discord, come hang with me and a whole bunch of other cool people. Some of you guys have joined the Discord server. I know some of you have. Holler at your boy. I know y'all ain't here, but if anyone else wants to come on through the Discord server, the link for that in the description. Of course, Twitter, please follow me on Twitter. I'm desperate. I've had 500 followers on Twitter for like the last 7,000 years. I want to at least get 1,000 followers on Twitter. Link for that will be in the description as well. Plus, you get to know when my videos come out and what I'm feeling and all kind of other things. But with that said, it's been your boy, and may the desire sensor forever be in your favor.